If God knows ahead of time who will defy him in the end and never accept him, why doesn't he just focus on the ones that would accept him? If God knows ahead of time who it is that won't accept him, that will reject him, why doesn't he just focus on the ones he knows will accept him? What's Jesus' job? What's God's job?
Saving people.
Right, that's who he is. He's a savior, right? That's what he does. So he says clearly in the Bible, he doesn't come for the righteous ones, he comes from those who are sick, right? So number one, what Austin's saying is God's really excited for people that are sick. So anyone outside of Christ, his point is that's who he focuses on, right? But we also know her point here, and I agree with him, her point here is that God being sovereign knows in advance who's going to come to him and not. One of the universal characteristics of who God is from Genesis through Revelation, if there's one character trait you can trace through every book of the Bible, is this idea of the love of God, no doubt. So we got something going on here. We've got a God who knows who is going to come to him, right? So if he knows, and he knows who won't, why doesn't he make sure that everybody does, right? Right, so sometimes where we get confused is between this idea of God knowing everything and what God does. Do you ever wish that you knew what your wife was thinking all the time? Do you wish you knew everything?
No.
That would be horrible. That would be horrible. Have you ever, here's where I'll get Tyler in trouble. He'll pretend that he can't speak because he's not feeling well. Have you ever been in the kitchen, whatever, with Bethany and thought in your mind, this woman's driving me nuts. She's wrong and she doesn't even see it. I don't know what's wrong with her. Have you ever had those kind of thoughts? Yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you, brother. Yes, it is usually that way, isn't it? Now, wouldn't it be horrible if you liked that movie with Mel Gibson where he could read women's minds and everything? All right, so we should suggest to God, I wish it's good that you don't know everything. I think maybe you should just be surprised at things, because when you know everything, it must drive you crazy, right? Wouldn't it be terrible if he knew everything and he's like, I've been sending her cards and flowers for years. Her young son just passed away through a terrible illness, and that's not enough to shake her. And now I'm listening to her talking to her friend, and I'm reading her mind, and she's saying how she wishes I was there, but I'm never there for her. How do you think God feels? Because he does know everything. You just told me you wish you didn't about your spouse, because why? What if you knew everything your spouse was thinking? What would that do? Why? Because it would break your heart. It would break your heart. How do you think God spent a lot of his time? With a broken heart. When you look at the description of Jesus Christ in the Bible, he's brokenhearted all the time. If you look at the end of John chapter 2, it's terrible. It says, I love the way, by the way, we always try to critique God, Well, if he was only this way, it'd be different, right? Here's John chapter 2, verse 23. When Jesus was in Jerusalem at the Passover during the feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs which he did. So the outward appearance is people are coming to Christ, it looks like, and they believe in him. Then look at verse 24. But Jesus did not commit himself to them because he knew all men. He knew what they were thinking. Verse 25. And he had no need that anyone should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. It would be awesome if all we thought all the time is wonderful thoughts about how wonderful God is and nobody ever upsets us and You know, we actually lived out the fruit of the Spirit, and we were that way all the time. And God's like, this is awesome. Look at my kids. They're just like me. But literally, probably every minute, every 2 minutes, you sin against God in your thoughts. You do something that hurts him. So when I look at this question, I'm thinking, God clearly says throughout the Bible that he has made evidence plain to see. He's given us all the evidence for who he is. He gives us a conscience. We're not like other types of animals. He makes us aware of the fact that there's something bigger than us out there. Then he shows up in space-time history. He actually shows up and makes himself known. Then for Christians, he says, and this is what we're going to learn today, he actually lives in us. And yet what people do is they say, you know, if he knew all this, why does he bother pretty much making people who disagree with me or who reject me? Because we're special in his eyes. We matter to him. We can hurt him. And he's omniscient and he knows all this. And yet he still pursues us. So for me, this is an easy one. When we get into this book and we talk about our soul and free will and we get into more details of the evidence for your soul, it will become a lot more obvious that we're not physical beings. We're not. We're spiritual beings. And he is constantly interacting with the world and with individuals, even unsaved people, to make us aware of our need. It's just that we pay no attention.